You're investing wrong and I can prove it. You're not investing wrong because you're buying the wrong ETFs or you're picking wrong stocks. You're investing wrong because you're treating investing like a decision instead of a habit or a bill. I used to do the exact same thing. I used to keep telling myself that once I made more money or once the market crashed, once I finished school, I paid off this one more thing, I would start investing. I would start putting money into the market. But the uncomfortable truth is that the market doesn't wait for people that have that mindset. And it certainly didn't wait for me. It rewards people who keep showing up. I can guarantee this is why you are investing wrong. When I first got serious about investing, I thought the hard part was going to be figuring out what I needed to buy. But the reality is that this is almost the easiest part. You put your money into an all market index fund like VTI or into the S&P 500 index fund like VOO, and you just sit and wait. What I did though is I watched every investing video I could find. I learned what all the terminologies meant. I learned what dollar cost averaging meant. And I really jumped in well more than I needed to. From the outside, it looked like I was, ready to invest in beyond Wall Street. But whenever it came to payday and putting money into my account, I was going down the wrong path. I was putting it into individual stocks. I wasn't thinking about how I want to actually invest for my future. I was thinking about the now and I was thinking about headlines. Sometimes I would look at, these index funds and I thought the prices would be too high and I convinced myself a crash was, imminent, and I never ended up putting money into those because of that. I just need a little bit more cash just in case in my account, and that was the detriment. None of these excuses were crazy, and I'm sure that you're having the exact same thing, but culminated together, they were not the right decision for my investing. I was waiting, and when I realized that I was waiting, I stopped thinking about investing as a knowledge problem and as a money problem, and I started thinking of it as this thing that I need to wait for instead of a bill, like I was saying at the beginning. So, step one to becoming a better investor and to stop investing wrong is accepting that there is no perfect time. And this is something that I didn't do correctly at the beginning. I started investing right after the COVID-19 crash, and I waited as the stock market went to all-time highs, and then it came down again in 2022 and 23, and I kept on waiting, and then it went back up to all-time highs, and then it went down again, and then the AI boom happened, and it's just been parabolic since then. And the point that I'm trying to make with that is that there was never a right time in there. There was always some kind of bare thesis you could make that the market was going to come down any moment. COVID was a life-changing event and the market was going to crash. Well, it didn't. And the tech fright, in 2022, that was going to turn tech stocks and they're going to go to zero. And now with AI, the same theses are happening. AI is not going to be that revolutionary. We're bound for a crash. But the reality is that nobody knows. And this was a trap I kept on falling into. I thought I was being careful, but I was really just delaying. And so I changed how I was thinking about it. Instead of asking, is this the right time to invest? I said, what can I invest today? And that was what changed everything for me, because instead of looking at charts and saying, this is exactly when I need to get in and this is when I need to get out and all that stuff, I said, do I have extra cash on the sidelines? Should I put it into, an ETF today? And that sounds like a really small shift, but it changes everything, because now you're not trying to predict the future. You're just trying to participate in it. And that's a really key point I want to hammer home. Once I stopped chasing that perfect moment, I also realized that so much more opens up in terms of my finances. You start thinking more logically about everything. The perfect moment was never the point behind my, waiting on the sidelines. The point was getting started. Even if it was small, even if it was boring, even if it most times didn't really feel like enough, every $20, $25, $50 mattered, because I was investing in something that I didn't know what the future held for, but I could guarantee was going to be better off. The second point to make sure that you're no longer investing wrong is to make investing automatic. Like I said at the beginning, you want investing to be just another bill. You have your phone bill, you have utilities, you have your Spotify subscription, you have all these things that just get pulled out of your checking account randomly. You don't even think twice about it. Make investing the exact same thing. Even if it's $25 every paycheck, make it a habit. Turn it into a chore almost, that on a Sunday, you need to clean up the house and you need to change the bedding. Well, now you need to, every Thursday, put $25 into your brokerage. And in the exact same essence, when you're in that brokerage, make sure every Thursday it automatically buys $25 of an all market ETF or an S&P 500 fund. That's what I did. I made it automatic. Now, every payday, money moved before I had a chance to spend it. And I wasn't sitting around saying, well, the market's at an all time high. Should I do it now? It's not because I suddenly became more responsible. It's because I knew myself well enough that I would sit there and I would look at the, S&P 500 and say, oh, should I wait? Should I wait? And that one change made investing feel less like a decision, more like a system. And that's really what dollar cost averaging is. And that's another point I want to hammer home for you is dollar cost averaging is what will build long-term wealth for you. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It's literally just investing on a regular schedule instead of trying to guess what day you should put your money into the market. And so if the market is up, if the market's down, if there's a new headline that is going to change the stock market forever, you just buy and you don't care when you buy. You stop asking, should I invest today? Because the answer already becomes, I did. That's the power of automating your investing. It removes emotion from that process, which shouldn't be an emotional process. And your consistency will get a lot easier. And the boring system starts to take place because that's what investing should be. It should be boring. The third point that I want you to take away to fix your investing is probably the most important, and that is fixing your finances before you begin to invest it. The hard thing that I had to do was actually sitting down and making a budget and making sure I had money to put away into investments because sometimes you don't, and that's the reality. For a long time, I was telling myself I couldn't invest more until I earned more. But when I sat down and actually broke down the numbers, I realized I could afford a lot more than I actually thought I could. you know, there's an easier way to save money, which is cutting out expenses, but sometimes expenses are necessary, like rent, like groceries, sometimes subscriptions here and there. But going in and breaking down, okay, I spend $100 a week going out to dinner. Well, if you spent $80, I could still go out to nice dinners, but I could then afford $20 every single week for my investments. That compounded over a year is $960 a year that I can put into my brokerage. That's a huge difference. Added up over many, many years at a regular, market return, that is unfathomable. None of these small changes feel huge, maybe getting a smaller coffee than you usually do, maybe canceling a subscription that you don't really need. I know these are kind of boomer advice points, but at the same time, they work. Not skipping out on them, but cutting back, where sometimes that lifestyle creep comes in a little bit. And suddenly the money that you thought you were saving is going into your brokerage and it's compounding. It's building that future that we were talking about earlier. A few things that you should do. First, build a small emergency fund. That is the best possible thing you can do in your circumstance. $500 to $1,000, nothing major, but enough that if anything were to happen on a small scale, you are going to be okay. Second is truly prioritize the investing line in your budget. Don't make it an optional expense. Make it like a rent expense. Make it like a grocery expense. Make it like a subscription that you just cannot live without, like a Spotify or maybe a Netflix or, for me, I really enjoy HBO Max. Don't make that change later on. Make it now and employ it now. That one shift mattered more than any stock that I could have picked ever, because it doesn't matter what stock you're picking. Like I was saying at the beginning, if you're putting it into the right index funds, it doesn't matter. But shifts within your daily finances is truly what will drive things forward. Here's why this matters so much to me. I'm not investing into my future because I want to be rich for the sake of being rich. I'm investing because I want options. I want the freedom to choose a job that I want to have when I want it. I'm choosing freedom to spend more time with my family and friends, to travel and buy things that I want to without having to look into my bank account and make sure everything works. I want to build a life that isn't controlled by every paycheck. And that's something that investing is buying for you. It's not just stocks that you're buying or anything like that. It's buying you time and options and choice. Maybe even the ability to retire earlier, but that is so far away for some people that the freedom in the now should be your goal. The funny thing is that kind of freedom usually isn't built in a one dramatic moment, like a Nvidia going up, 15x or Palantir, going through the roof. It's built on these $25 deposits, on these $50 deposits, whatever you can afford. It's built on the days you invest when nothing feels exciting, when you kind of ignore the headlines, when you're not telling anyone what you're buying. Because when you have 52 of those boring days every single year, it eventually will build a life that becomes a lot less stressful. If you're only going to remember one thing from this video, remember that consistency beats intensity every single time. You don't need to predict the market. You don't need to find the next NVIDIA. You don't even need a six-figure salary to begin. You just need to start and then keep showing up week after week, month after month, year after year. This is what helped me to stop overthinking and start building something real. It's the kind of investing you want. You want a boring portfolio, boring deposits, boring purchase prices. If you are having a boring investing journey, you are in the right place. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I make videos about early retirement, finances, stocks, and anything else that has to do with giving you options in life. Thanks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.